Hey everybody, welcome to the latest developer blog from BattleGoat Studios. My name is Christian. I'm the project manager for BattleGoat Studios on a number of our projects. Today I want to spend a few minutes taking you through how I start a game of Galactic Ruler. We've really appreciated everybody who's come into the early access for Galactic Ruler, that it is available for those who want to buy in during the development cycle. We want to be sure and clear that everybody understands it's still very early access, that we have a lot of parts we want feedback on, so we have decided to bring it out in this format now so we can start getting the feedback from the community. The difficulty that it creates is that there's a number of the pieces that would help new users get settled that just aren't in yet and may not be for a while, because we're depending heavily on a community of players who've seen a lot of our past games and can recognize the mechanics we've used before, how we're transforming them, and like I said, we're already getting some great feedback on it. But today, I want to be helpful to those players who are new to it, or anybody who's played some of the other games and wants to really see what we're changing. So I will walk you through those first couple minutes of a game and talk about the approach I use to get the most out of the game as it exists right now. So the good news is also that I'm recording this as we've just released our 4th fast track update. If you missed the previous video, George explained how you can stay cutting edge with the updates. That we'll do public updates, but we'll also be doing fast track. More chance of getting your crashes, but you can really stay up to date on the latest changes that we're making. The build as of today is version 0.654, and it's got some new UI features that I'll probably talk about as well as I'm showing you guys around. So the main menu, I think it is worth pointing out that at the main menu we do have these buttons on the top right that take you out to our social media pages, the Gamepedia page that we use as a general reference across all our titles. And it already has, if anybody is interested in modding, we are already updating the content on the Gamepedia with information useful to modders. The tutorial will be coming later on, and we will eventually have support for Steam Workshop, but for now it's really just single player or multiplayer gaming. So I'm going to go into New Game, and you're immediately presented with these choices of your galaxy size, which is going to affect how many systems you're dealing with, and some basic settings around them. Do you want a more military style of gameplay, an economic style of gameplay, or are you looking to have more defensive? This is going to affect not just the way the AI factions interact with you, but the disposition of the economies under the hood and stuff. Generally for now, I like the economic stance. Seems to be our most centrist baseline of settings. And I usually do small or even very small galaxies. I'll show you where you set that in a moment, just because the time to generate a bigger galaxy is larger. So with these two settings set, I click factions, and I don't really need to select anything further because it's possible to just start with a random faction. If I click launch, it'll pick one for me and just get me into the game. I like the Stellopter. When our artist created this was one of my early favorites, and it kind of sticks with me, and I really like the ships that our 3D modelers made. Before continuing, 2 small changes you may want to do at the lobby level to customize your gameplay. The galaxy size, there's actually 5 options once you're into the advanced settings. So I will sometimes go to very small, so there's less exploring needed to see the whole place. And the size of the galaxy does affect how many AIs you're facing with, but you can override that. There's this dot system at the bottom here that I can click up to get the most I can. The game mechanic does support more AI factions than we have in the game right now. There's a few factions where we've got a lot of the artwork and we've got some of the ships, but we're still balancing stuff. They'll come in later in the early access process. But this is what I'm going to play for today. So I'll hit launch, and it tells us how many systems we're dealing with. Very small gets you 50 star systems within the galaxy. And you get a quick preview of the name of the systems just to get the progress bar going.
Just like generating going, please.
Okay, so a new change that came in since the start of the early access is top left of your screen, you've got a help system. This, anybody who's played our earlier games will recognize that we've carried this forward. It's going to get some more cleanup later, but it functions, and it gives us the opportunity to give you guys some of the early tips. Anybody who's new to the system, to our game system, might not be familiar with how we do game speed. So this one is just calling out the fact that I can set my game speed. Since I know the game, I'm going to delete this message and won't worry about it. You arrive at the planet level. The game does allow you to play at the planet, system, and navigate the galaxy level. Galaxy level really is only about navigation. There's no actions to be taken there. At the planet level, I have a tendency to jump quickly through. Oh, there's my next tip coming in. I'm just going to put that away for now. So looking at the departments across the bottom, land department lets me view the contents of a specific hex. The state department does very little at the beginning of the game because I haven't met any other factions. Production department, the resources. Here I will usually do a quick glance to see where is my blue bar larger than my red bar, meaning where do I have a surplus. I have lots of agri. I have some shortage on the ore, some shortage on electricity, but I have lots of finished goods. So I'm going to be able to build the facilities I need. And right now there are not many limits that you don't need to worry about damaging an economy right now, because a lot of those limits and the pressures that you'll feel that'll really make the game more engaging are still coming later on. We want to let players get as far into the gameplay features as they can, because that's how we're going to find all the bugs and concerns that we have now. So before I go up to the system level, I think I'm going to build a couple more ore facilities. I'm going to use this icon here to show a filter on the map of where the ore deposits are, and then I could either use my right-click, build industrial, or in the resources department, there's a panel for all the facility controls. In fact, I don't need to worry about where the industries are. I can use this button here to tell my governor to build for me. As I click, he starts construction, and I'll click again. Now there is a limit to this, that your governor will look for complexes that have space. If you need to start an entirely new industrial complex to house the facilities, the minister isn't really sure where you would want to do that. So as a player, at that point, you do have to do the right-click build and pick a location. And I can use bottom right here, you can reset any of the filters. There are lots of filters and elements that you can play with to see stuff on map. Moving on. Research. Actually, this is something else that I would always do before moving too far into the game. You start the game as a faction that has become space capable, but is not interstellar yet. You don't start with the technologies to leave your system. So one of the first things that I have a tendency to do is to come into the research department. And in fact, much as that tip just came in and said to me, is I'm going to come into here, look for my available technologies, infrastructure. Advanced computing is the first of, I think it's about 3 steps to get to your interstellar travel. So I'll add that to my to my research queue. And if I double click on that, I can actually view a full set of where all the technologies lead to. I can even open this up, go to double click to interstellar travel, double click to civilian space travel, and by pushing the begin research button here, it will actually add to my queue all of the technologies that I need to be able to get all the way up to interstellar travel. The next panel allows me to build more land, air, or sea units on the planet level. Until I start encountering other factions, I'm not too concerned about that. I'll come back to it later. And this is the land, air, and sea units that I start with. You start with a bit of a defense force on your planet already. At this point, I feel comfortable. I've dealt with the basics of my planet. I'm now going to check out the space level. Top left corner, this button allows us to go up to the system level. Now I can zoom out a little bit. This is the system that we started in. The user interface is very similar between the planet and the system level. Top left, instead of having the planet star, I have the star galaxy, and it tells me the name of the system that I'm in. Speed controls are just the same. There are departments that are almost parallel. Some changes, but they work very much the same. Bottom right, different size mini-map, but the controls and panels that you get there are about the same. Top right, you also get the alert message systems that will try and notify you as events are going on in the game. You do get the commodity bar at the top that at the system level, it is doing a total of all your planets in that system. Whereas at the planet level, it'll just give you the total of that planet. Top center, something that you'll see only on inhabited systems or inhabited planets, is it will show you the flags for anybody who is present in that system. So your planet will show you're there, your system will show you're there. Once we go elsewhere, it'll either be empty, or we may start getting multiple flags as you get into later gameplay. So zooming back into my planet, I can see the HUD tells me that this is my home world. It's got my icon on it. On the right side, it shows me an icon that represents the fact that I have units on the planet. That's what that little green one means. And we can see the planet name. With the planet selected, I could go back into the user interface. I can see the planet and what's been built around it. There's a button to go back down, or you can double click the planet to go down to the planet. I'm going to jump all the way to the opposite end of that user interface to where the unit inventory is, because we do begin with some spaceships. We have a couple interceptors, fighters, and a drone. For me, the drone is the fastest way to explore my own system. So I've deployed it, and I can tell it to move off. When your ships are flying within a system, their relative movement speed, you can get a sense for it here. I'm not at the top game speed, but they're not super fast moving around. The faster than light, FTL jumping between systems, is far more instantaneous, but at this time it also doesn't have the limits we intend for it later. The jump system that we envision for this game is one where interstellar ships are capable of storing energy for an FTL drive. When they decide to go to another system, from issuing the order, there's a delay as the drive charges up. The jump itself is instantaneous, and when it arrives at another system, the batteries will need to recharge before it can do another jump. That is the game mechanic that we think is going to fit well with what we're designing here. So this drone, I could send it somewhere else. But yeah, the early gameplay does limit you until you get those first FTL ships. And I'm going to stop here because I'll do another video before too long where I'm going to specifically set it up where I've gotten some transport ships, colony ships, that I'm ready to really start exploring to the rest of the galaxy. That if I go up one more level here, start of the game, we're stuck there. We have our system. We cannot reach everywhere else. And for now, when you play the game, you're exploring for the sake of exploring. As the storyline elements, as more research elements come in, as more interaction comes in, there will definitely be parts of the game that will motivate you to go to those other systems other than just because they're there. So yeah, hope you continue watching our videos. We're going to try and fit in as many of these information bits as we can between all the development work that we're doing, because we're definitely working hard to make this game the best one that our studio's ever delivered. Thanks for watching, thanks for supporting us, and check us out on the usual social media channels.